So, how do we learn? One of the important things that I've learnt about learning is that it can be described in 4 stages. And this is partly that what I've learnt from Chris Chaparro and Judy Ranker. And I also give some credit to Michelle Donnelly as well. I did a systematic instruction course that she designed, and I was a tutor in that. So, and Chris and Judy created the PRPP assessment and intervention model. So this, what I'm going to say now is I can attribute to my learnings from them as well. So 4 stages of learning. Acquisition. So that's where you get to know the very basics about whatever it is you're doing, and this is particularly if it's a motor skill that you're learning. So there's the very basics of that, of the step-by-step process of whatever you're learning. And then there's fluency, and that's when you get a little bit of speed, you get maybe a little bit of rhythm with it. And then there's maintenance, and that's when you begin to know it really well and it becomes a bit of a habit. So you can do it really well as long as the environment doesn't change. You don't have to adapt to the environment, because then what there is generalisation, and that's when you can do that skill in different environments. So for instance, if you're dancing, you've learnt it in the studio, and then you're now doing it in the on stage, or you're doing it at a festival, you're doing it somewhere else. So that's when we are designing a learning plan, we need to look at all the 4 stages. So you often need to think about the generalisation section right from the beginning when you're teaching the acquisition. So the other thing about designing how you're going to teach someone is to think about the types of prompts you're going to use. So you might have visual prompts. So it might be that you highlight the line that you want the person to write on, and you may provide verbal prompts, or you might provide physical prompts. You might actually physically assist them to do something. But even when you're in that acquisition stage, you need to have a plan for how you're going to get to generalize. So the line that you want them to write on will maybe gradually decrease. Maybe initially there's 3 colors, and then you're going to go to just single lines. Then you also want them to be able to write on 1 line, and then go to writing on a blank page without any lines as well. If you're providing verbal prompts, you can gradually reduce the number of verbal prompts, and you can gradually reduce the words that you're going to use. If it's physical prompts, then you might start at the wrist and then work gradually up the arm. So we're always thinking, when we start with a prompt, we don't want it to be a prompt that we can't get rid of. And then the other thing that's really important, in particularly to get from acquisition to fluency, is often massed practice of just one little section of that large task analysis. So whenever I do a task analysis, which is all the steps involved in a task, I only ever break it down to a maximum of 12 steps, because otherwise it's too confusing. If you can't break the activity down into 12 steps that you think you can measure, then the activity is too complex for the person. So you might need to get rid of some of bits of that. But even within those 12 steps, there might be 2 or 3 steps that the person just needs to practice over and over and over again in order to really get those steps, and then you can embed that back into the 12 steps, and then you can start looking at fluency. So fluency, like I said, is the speed or the rhythm of the activity. It's beginning to put it into context. So it might be putting those 12 steps into a larger context that they already know. So like the morning routine, they already know that when they wake up, they need to go to the toilet. So, and you've just taught them the 12 steps of dressing. So now it's putting that into the routine of, okay, after I go to the toilet, then I get dressed, and I've been practicing these 12 steps, so I can do it within a regular routine. And then the maintenance might be doing that, every day of the week. And then the generalisation might be, okay, so let's think about, what if they go to camp? How are they going to do that? Get up, go to the toilet, get dressed when they're on a school camp. And again, you might have some questions for the teachers about what the camp's going to be like. You may even do things like practice with a toiletry bag at home in the regular environment, because on camp they're going to need a toiletry bag, so which they don't normally do in their regular environment, but in order to generalize, they will need to do that with a toiletry bag. So I guess that sort of gives you a little bit of a few examples and a little bit of understanding about going from acquisition to fluency to maintenance to generalisation.